Wagwa Masenga, coming to you from South Africa live. Um, of course, as I always say, it's been a while since my last post. This should be my opening line. Um, and this is because I really don't like to rush into conversations as they are developing. Africa in the new global emerging geopolitical order. That is my concern. I, of course, have been observing the developments in South Africa with the March and March protests and so on. I've also observed the various engagements between Africans, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in different parts of the African world, and of course some diaspora voices. No one is getting it right. Unfortunately, few people are getting it right. In terms of engaging with the issues happening largely on the African continent and also specifically in South Africa and the other countries. What I'm going to say for now, we're going to have to have an engagement on this, on both Mlinzi Africa and Geopolitics from the Center, GFC. I have posted a video where there's a discussion. Please check them out. A discussion on the emerging New World Order and Africa's position in it. And what I can just say to you, Africa, you are nicely, strategically positioned to yet again become losers in the geopolitical game. As you are scratching at each other with all these things, Nigeria saying they're going to now try and sanction South Africa and all of that, economic, this and that. The real geopolitical game is asking us questions around AI, the new age, the changing world order, food sovereignty, issues around fuel, because the war in Iran has affected us as it has affected all countries in the world. You're going to have to be thinking about how you're going to do economic development and have strategic autonomy and sovereignty. And so I'm looking at Africans scratching at each other, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, here's the reality, Africa. Get ready to lose. That's what I say. On this current trajectory, scratching at each other and all of that, I think the video I posted is really the conversation we should be having. The conversation being raised by Aliko Dangote from Nigeria, the great business mogul. Those are the things we should be engaging on. The worst thing South Africa can do now is to have civil unrest, civil wars, and those kinds of things. That is the perfect condition to be exploited and taken advantage of by the global powers. So please check out that video that I've posted. I'll come back again to get into the conversation about it. But I think in Africa, we are not having the right conversation. I listen to my brothers from Nigeria, from Ghana, from other places in Africa. You are not being honest and real about the conversation that we should be having. The last thing Africans need to be doing is trying to appear as though they are more intelligent or more hardworking or more this and that against the other. That's not the game, Africa. You're all weak. You're all weak. As a collective, you are weak in the global geopolitical game. And so if you watch the video I was watching, the one I posted on both GFC and this channel, you will see what I'm talking about. The speaker there is an expert in geopolitics. He's been analyzing it for a while. And what he's saying is African leadership is going to have to decide how they enter this new global order. And if they're going to come into it ill prepared, um, yeah, we're going to be chowed. We're absolutely going to be consumed, and we're all going to perish. And so, looking at the global order, nothing is coincidental. Everything is connected. The Iran war, South Africa's challenge to the United States and Israel, retaliation to South Africa, negative narratives about South Africa and the global stage, all of these things are related. And so we as the ordinary citizens in Africa, scratching at each other and being antagonistic to each other, instead of having conversations and, that are sober and solid, um, let's try to remove these emotive things like xenophobia, this and that in the conversation. Let's have real conversations about power dynamics. Realistically, Africans from other places who are present in South Africa are here because of failure in leadership in their own countries. And then there's failure in leadership all over the continent. And there's failure to hold each other accountable among African leadership in the whole continent. There's failure of strategic alignment, failure of regional integration. All of these things are going to hurt us in this new emerging world. It is a volatile world we are moving into. It's not going to be anything like what we've seen in the past couple of years. And so our posture is going to have to change. Are we militarily ready to defend our territories in Africa? No, we are not. Are we economically strong? No. Are we regionally integrated? No. Do we have food sovereignty? No. And so when you are looking at all of that analysis in the global scheme of things, in the bigger picture of things, none of us is in a strong position, realistically. Not South Africa, not Nigeria, Ghana, or any other country in Africa. And because of our constant division and our lack of clarity in thought, especially as ordinary citizens, to hold our governments to account so that they can do what they need to do to secure our territories, our various territories, and the entire African region, we now find ourselves in this weak position in an emerging new world order with artificial intelligence as a technology of the time. And our critical minerals are going to become a huge factor in this new era. Are we prepared? This is what bothers me. Recently, I watched an article about the AI policy suggested by the South African government, and it had so many issues because apparently it seems like they used AI to write the policy. And the policy was not great. The references were off and all of that. And so the use of AI, we are still coming into the understanding of it. My present research, by the way, is in AI. In the use of AI for specifically creating scenario-based learning simulations in higher education, which is where I work as an instructional and learning designer. This is what I do, integrating digital technologies into learning journeys for students and so on, and creating immersive, engaging learning experiences for students, but also using AI and leveraging it to create analytics dashboards and things like that to help us deal with data. Because if you're not dealing with data-informed decision-making, you are playing in this new age. You are playing. And so using the proper and ethical use of AI, the use of AI with precision will become crucial. So we can't just give AI to write policies for us. No. We're going to have to be proficient in knowing how to use AI as an effective tool to help us scale our efforts. You're not going to have to outsource the work to AI. It's not possible. I work with AI all the time. Artificial intelligence is good. It's a good technology, can help us do a lot of things in Africa, especially because in terms of development, uh, we have struggled a lot. AI has potential, but you gotta use it responsibly. You can't use AI in research and it's not accurate. You will lose. You'll fail. And so the same sort of scientific rigor will have to be maintained even when using AI. And so, African family, I'm just pleading to us. Can we wake up to the moment? This is not 1963. This is not 1948. This is not 1994. This is 2026. In a highly industrialized environment with advanced artificial intelligence technology on the table. Can we meet the moment, African family? Can we meet the moment and manage our primal instincts? Primal instincts that lead to ethno-nationalism, ethnocentrism, focusing on the language you speak, your ethnic identity and all that stuff. And can we think in terms of the bigger picture, the bigger fight that is confronting us? Of course, for South Africans, I'm not saying that the issues being raised locally are not crucial or important. And I think that has to be spoken to and addressed. You cannot do anything without law and order, for sure. And that's something we have to get more deeply into. Law and order. You've got to establish law and order. All African countries have to establish law and order. All of us have to take accountability for our failures, individual and collective failures on the African continent. And stop this thing. Like I was looking at the Nigerian Senate and they're talking about they're going to ban MTA and DSTV. Guys, that's not even the game. What are you doing? That's not even the game. That's just political maneuvering so that you get popularism in the next election. All our governments are doing this, whether it's Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, wherever. They're doing this, manipulating your emotions so that that can translate to votes for them. So we need to sit down and have sober conversations. No country can really do anything without law and order. And so all of us throughout the African continent, this is what I think we should do. Take the heat to our leadership. Because that's what the problem is, isn't it? The interests, the various economic interests that our politicians are involved in all over the continent. If I can ask an ordinary South African, how many shares do you have in MTN in South Africa? And then how many shares do you have in MTN in Nigeria? The majority of you are going to say none. You know nothing about it. How many shares do local politicians have in all these companies locally in South Africa? How many shares do they have in these companies and their branches all over Africa? See, these are the questions that are going to give you the answers you're looking for. I really don't get why ordinary citizens in Africa are scratching at each other. There's a bigger geopolitical game being played. Your politicians are part of it, and they're trying to get their piece and their share, and they're going to use you as political leverage to ensure that they do it and they get what they want. And they're going to mobilize you in various ways to ensure that. And then at the end, you, the ordinary citizens, will continue to suffer while they continue to benefit. Your politicians live comfortably and luxuriously. Facts. All of them. Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, wherever. They're okay. How about you? It's time you think for yourselves as ordinary citizens. Sovereignty should not be at national level. You should focus on sovereignty at number one, family, clan, community. That is the baseline y'all need to be focused on. Establishing food sovereignty, security, and everything at community level. Then putting pressure on your local government and national government, leveraging that level of sovereignty and independence you've established. Right now, I am leveraging AI to help me establish a number of things in terms of sovereignty, personal sovereignty. I've got my food garden sovereignty project. Well, I call it farming. It's the Kenyan Food Sovereignty Project. I am working on developing my own philosophy, by the way. It's influenced and inspired by African knowledge systems. I'm calling it chemiology. Hi there. I see you on the chat. Pomegranate 101, AIAIO, Tandiwe Kumalo. Hi, welcome, and thank you for joining me. I'm just talking about us mobilizing sovereignty first at individual level, and then at family level, and then at community level. Food sovereignty, security, and all the critical things we need to survive. And that security element will also help you with the issues around, oh, but I tried to start a spaza shop and then I was threatened. Well, if you have got a solid backing from others who are of like minds, maybe someone has a security company, maybe someone has retail here, maybe someone has knowledge on that, you consolidate, you bring all of that together at community level. Can you imagine if you could supply your community with food consistently, with security, all various infrastructure, water, everything else you need? The community mobilize their resources. It can be done. We use our resources all the time for nonsense, like drinking and going out and doing all that. So we can mobilize our resources for our own benefit locally at communities. And we can then use that to translate into putting pressure on politicians, local governments, national governments, and the state, and all of that. But being at each other's throats and, back and forth, shouting at each other as ordinary citizens in Africa is not going to do anything for us. Because you must understand, these politicians meet each other all the time. And why is it they don't hold each other accountable? But instead, they want to leverage certain discontent and unrest in our countries to leverage politically for votes in the next campaigns. And so what I would say to Africa, let's not get into this social media row and back and forth. South Africa xenophobia, hey, Nigeria did this, hey, Ghana. Let's focus on the critical issues. Security is crucial. I want to live in a safe environment, and I don't want to live in a territory where there's no controls and there's just movement with no order and no control. Law. We must agree on law in principle, by the way. That's crucial. Not based on what you feel like today. The law must be principle. So if I'm today saying, no, we must have law and order in our country, tomorrow when the law is against me, I must also comply. The same one who was talking. So even these leaders of March and March, I will hear them more if really what they're doing is in principle. If it's in principle and it is based on demands for law and order, and they are saying that that law and order will also apply to them. Do you see that? It has to be on principle, Africans. It can't be on your whims according to how you feel, maybe your ethno nationalist sentiments or whatever. Because I'm a different nationality from you, I speak a different language. So that means we won't have a consistent standard by which we judge issues. And so we must agree on all these things, Africans. There's no avoiding it. There must be laws that govern us and order that we follow, all of us. If it is required by law that when you move from one country in Africa to another, you must declare yourself, that is the law we have agreed on, all of us. Doesn't matter who you are. Don't tell us about in whatever, countries in Africa helped South Africa. Yeah, sure, great. But still, when you come to South Africa, you got to do it through law and order and the principles agreed upon. Agreements have been made about the territories in Africa. We can renegotiate them if we want. Agreements now have been made. And so we must stick to those things and not try to use these emotional arguments to manipulate others. And so I'm saying law throughout Africa, accountability for everyone, and we must put the heat to our leaders to ensure that all of these things are enforced. And if they don't enforce, we must fight. In all our countries, we must fight. It's not easy. Maybe in South Africa it's a bit easier because of the democratic situation. In other countries may not. But all over Africa, we must fight. We don't have a choice. The loser position is to think you can run away to some other corner in another African country and find refuge when your homeland is suffering. That won't work. Must fight. We must fight to secure our territories, to ensure that we have a future. Our politicians don't necessarily seem to have an interest in that. And so we're going to have to fight. Solveng Malatsi, hi there. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Brothers and sisters, I will be back. But as always, I will be observing first to see what's going on, to listen to how you are talking to each other, because I don't think we're getting it right. But look, I feel South Africans have been given too much heat on this xenophobic thing. This is not to say I don't acknowledge there are genuine xenophobic sentiments in South Africa, but those exist everywhere else. And so I'm concerned about this. There seems to be some campaign to want to make South Africa look like we are just the worst hateful people. And I must tell you, I am Pan-Africanist leaning, but I cannot agree. I cannot agree that we as South Africans are hateful. Because then that would have to mean that I am also hateful towards other Africans, and I'm not. I'm not. And so, but we do have to deal with some real practical issues of governance and so on. And we must be honest about them. The one element y'all are lacking in Africa in dealing with your issues is the truth. Because if we're being truthful, the Nigerian citizens would also admit that the reason why a lot of them came to South Africa is because their own government failed them. But in South Africa, we do admit our government is failing us, and that's why we're fighting them. And so, but I'm not saying that I'm going to condone violence against each other as Africans. I wouldn't. But you have to understand how difficult it is for the people in South Africa who have been saying to their government, their state for years, we've got issues. None of them ever get addressed. And so, at some point, the people are like, so what must we do? What must happen? And so simply labeling this as xenophobic, disingenuous, Africa. I'm sorry. Disingenuous. I'm Pan-Africanist leaning. I'm touched that we're being dishonest in favor of ideological positioning. And many of y'all talking about Pan-Africanism don't even really understand it. I understand Pan-Africanism. I know the different Pan-African conferences that happen. I think it was about 5 of them The first one, I believed, was in the UK in 1900, and then there were several few others that came after that. The Pan-African founding fathers were very practical and realistic in terms of what needs to happen and what contributions they all need to make for their collective freedom. And this is how you establish a solid, interest-based alliance. You bring your interests together and see where you align. And that's why even with the Pan-Africanist thing, when the Organization of African Unity was initially being discussed, you had two groups that split, whose interests were not shared or aligned. Monrovia and I believe the Casablanca group. Some of those were saying, let's have complete African unity now. One Africa now. Then there were those who were saying, no, let's do it gradually. So already you were split, Africa. You were not on the same page with that. For this generation, we need to come back to the table and realistically, see, I subscribe to the political school of thought of realism, political realism. Let's sit around the table. Let us reassess our interests, individual and collective, and then see really if we're aligned. See, that's how you begin truthful discourse and exchange. You don't begin with trying to lecture South Africans about, oh, but we saved you in apartheid, or we did this and that. Oh, please, those things are tired. Those arguments are tired. African fam, I gotta tell you, those arguments are tired. They're emotionalist, not necessarily constructive. We need power talks now. The reality of the world as it stands, the alliances that exist, the global geopolitical alliances that exist in real time, and whether or not our interests are truly aligned, and whether or not we truly do have African brotherhood and true Pan-African unity. Real conversations, Africans. This is no time to play. We're in a serious shift in the global order, and we need to have serious conversations. I'm tired of these emotionalist things. Let's stop these emotionalist things. Let's have real conversations about the reality of the world, the different contests, geopolitical contests taking place globally, and whether or not we are prepared for this new emerging world order. That's all I have for you today, African family. Thank you for lending me your attention. I am your brother, Mukondeleli Muraudzi wa Goba Masenga. It is important that I say this because one of the things that's going to help us is for us to connect to ourselves at the level of spirit, ontologically. Who are you? What's your bloodline? Who are your people? What do they say about themselves? How do they present themselves? My people, Baraudzi ba Goba Masenga, say, Baraudzi ba Goba Masenga, Baraudzi ba Chinabini, Chinabera Babuya. In other words, in simple terms, simple translation, we, like the righteous, we don't necessarily like to deal with the wicked. And then we say, we don't eat with the wicked. We prefer the righteous. Does that mean we are perfect as a bloodline? No. It could never mean that. It means we have aspirations for what we think are the values we should aspire to. Know who you are. Who are you? What is your root? Where do you come from? What is the stuff that you're made of? In Africa, there is this reference to animals. So, for example, my people are part of a larger group. Baraudziwa Gowa Masenga are part of a larger group. It's called Masingo, the elephant trunks. So we associate with the elephant. And then you have Thohoyandou, the town today in Venda called Thohoyandou. It's named after this king whose name was Thohoyandou. Thohoyandou means the head of the elephant. And so larger, we are part of Masingo. Then there is Thohoyandou. So you see the theme. So if I am me and I want to understand myself, I'm going to have to study the elephant. I'm going to have to understand the elephant. Why did my people want to associate themselves with the elephant? That is ontological knowledge. I want us to transcend, and that's why geopolitics from the center in Lindsay Africa Network is for that. To do geopolitics from the ontological center. We are doing too much political ideology and all these other things. All these ideology, socialism, hey, what, hey, capitalism, hey, center, left, politics, right. No. Your center is you and your ontology and where you come from and your people and the values they have. You're connected to that. So let's have conversations based on that. When I come to any table, I'm going to tell you, I am mukondeli muraudzi wa gova masenga. Ri varaudzi vachinaveni chinavela vavuya, vaviya chivanaveli. So, if we're going to collaborate, similar spirit and energy, we have to connect somewhere. If you're part of the group that my people don't deal with, I'm going to tell you, nah, man. That's not the association. I don't care the color of your skin. The spirit is not the same. Spirit, African. Your ontological center. That's what we need to be focusing on when we come to the table to talk to each other. Who are you? Let's talk about that. What values inform you and inspire you? Then we can have a conversation. There's roots involved. It's a real thing. It's a genuine conversation. It's not these things of color, race, skin, hey, black, white, hey. Superficial. Anyway, African family, let me leave you. Thank you for joining me. Stay in peace and please reflect on these things. If you are triggered, I'm sorry. But please, let's think about these things. We are in a serious time in the world. The United States of America is no longer pretending to be a benevolent force in the world. They've decided to take their mask off and show the true imperial power that they are. If they want to invade your country, for whatever reason, they will invade it. The United States of America has put South Africa in its crosshairs. We are in a serious struggle, African family. Think about these things. Peace and love, family. Peace.